What's up, everybody, and welcome to Season 2 of the Willpower Podcast. Before I get into today's episode, I just had a quick announcement I wanted to make, but before that, I just want to thank you guys so much for all your love and support through Season 1 and throughout this journey so far. Now, with that, I just want to share with you that I am sad, but I'm also happy to say that Season 2 will be the series finale of this podcast. I've really enjoyed this time of being able to develop on my skills and things I wanted to get into and work on. And for me, it just doesn't feel right to go into doing something with not putting my full heart and effort into it. So I'm going to give you guys my best for Season 2, as I did for Season 1. And then I'm going to take some time off and focus on some other ventures and things I want to focus on. But I'm going to go into more detail on that throughout today's episode. And I'll put a timestamp right here where you can see my real reasoning behind as to why that is. But again, thank you guys so much for all your love and support throughout this journey so far. I'm really excited to get Season 2 done for you guys. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Willpower Podcast. Now, before I introduce my guest, for anybody who doesn't know me, I am the host of the show. My name is William Davenport, and I'm a huge passionate for basketball, mental health, and business, and everything in between. We're going to be going over that through this podcast, and through every other episode, we go through a lot of similar things as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. Now, with that, I am honored today to introduce a good friend of mine. You are the co-founder of the 3 in the Key podcast, the co-founder of a not-for-profit clothing brand, which we'll go over that afterwards, as well as the sideline commentator for the Ottawa BlackJacks, Elias El Zein. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Welcome to the show. So I want to start off with what inspired you to first get into sports commentary, and talk about maybe some early influences that you had in your life that kind of led you towards that path.
Oh, man. This started a long, long time ago. It was kind of honestly like by accident or by luck, I
Mm,
guess you could say, because I was in university studying something completely different, in a different path, like in engineering. And then I don't know, I would always just like be at the gym instead of being in class,
yeah,
playing basketball and stuff. And I was already enrolled for my second year. I enjoyed it. Like, it was cool. It was chemical engineering, and I love chemistry still to this day. But I don't know, there was just something, I don't know, I didn't have that spark, you know?
of
And then
course.
someone pointed me into broadcasting at Algonquin College, and told me I should check it out, and that, I like sports and different things. So I applied for the program and I got accepted, did the program, graduated, and then started getting jobs in the field. And
Wow.
then slowly but surely, I've always been passionate about sports, but especially basketball. And then I just, happened to have opportunities, and I started like doing some play-by-play for a team like 11 years ago, our first professional team in the city, called the Ottawa Skyhawks. and then
Yeah.
and then I would help out, like, where I was working at, Bell Media. They had a sports radio station called
Hmm.
TSN 1200. So I would give like my opinion there, or anytime they had any questions about basketball, for example. And then I got to go to All Star Weekend in 2016 in Toronto.
Yeah.
So that was a
Kobe's
lot of
last one.
fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I
Yeah.
was able to be in a scrum with Kobe, which was a pretty cool moment. And then after that, I started a podcast. I got into play-by-play for the Carleton Ravens, and did like high school as well, both men and women. And then
Hmm.
eventually leading up to the BlackJacks. And then my podcast has been going on throughout
That's
this whole
awesome.
time, as well. So that's kind of how it got started, and it's still going.
Yeah. When you made that transition, going from chemical engineering, going into obviously doing the commentary, and what was the name of the program? Sorry, Algonquin?
Radio broadcasting.
Radio broadcasting,
Yeah.
making that transition. Did you finish your chemical engineering first, then made the transition, or
No.
did you just
Yeah, I
make that
stopped.
change?
I
Wow.
stopped, and when I was telling people, they're like, "Yo, this is such a
Yeah.
huge like 180.
Yeah.
You're going from engineering to like broadcasting." And there was just something in me that someone helped me, like point
Mm,
me in that direction. Couple people were telling me like, "Hey, don't like, if yes, you like engineering or chemistry and stuff, but you're not really, sometimes you do things and you you could finish it and it's okay, but you're not
mm,
really passionate about it, or it's kind of, I always use the example of like, I never want to wake up every morning thinking myself like, yo, should I call in sick to work.
Wow. Yeah.
I feel like that's when you like, obviously you don't like what you do for a living. So I didn't want to have that as my future where I wake up every morning and I'm like, man, I have to go do this 9 to 5 or whatever. And should I call in sick? And then after work is where I have fun, where I'm playing basketball or watching ball. So I
Yeah.
kind of went into that, not knowing that I would be having a podcast in the future, for example, or being able to interview different coaches and players and go on All-Star weekend and different things like
Hmm.
that. That was like, I didn't know it was going to get there, but I said, you know what, let me do it and see where it takes me. And I'm here today, and I honestly
That's awesome.
I have no regrets. So
I love
I'm
it.
loving
And
the ride.
what advice would you give to someone who's maybe scared to make that transition, that knows it within themselves to say, man, I don't like the program I'm taking, I don't like my major I'm taking.
Right.
I want to change, but I'm scared of judgment, I'm scared of family, I'm scared that I'm making the wrong decision. What would you say as far as advice to someone that's maybe wanting to make that jump but is a little scared too?
I say you got to do it, trust your
Mm,
gut. I'm big on that. And I'm also a person that when it comes to making decisions, I ask myself, hey, is this something that I'm going to think back on and regret? Like, hey,
hmm.
I don't know, anything, for example, right? Like, if I didn't do this, like 5 years from down the line, am I going to be like, oh man, I'm still thinking about that decision that I said no to, for example.
Yeah.
If if you're gonna think that way, then you have to go do it. It could be with anything,
Well,
like even buying something at the store. You see a nice shirt, whatever, and you're trying to decide, yeah, should I get it? Should I not get it? But you're like, okay, if I leave the store without it, am I gonna be happy? Am I gonna be okay, or am I gonna regret it? And if you're on the side of like, hey, actually, I'm gonna regret it, then you need to buy that shirt. You know what I
mm,
mean? So it's the same
yep.
thing with this. When you want to make a decision, of course, there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of question marks. There's people that maybe are going to judge. You can't care about people's opinions. That's also how I
Yeah.
approach something. So I say just, take that step. It's not going to be easy. Nothing's easy in life, but take it. See if you like it, try it. If you don't, man, at the end of the day, you have your whole life to go back and finish what you were doing. Everyone's on their own marathon, right? So don't try to
Hmm.
compare yourself to someone else or this person, has accomplished so much by this age or whatever. Because people are, as humans we've had a lot of these conversations where we're too
Yeah.
hard on ourselves, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
you just have to do it, trust your gut, and then live with the outcome. And I'm sure you're going to be happier. As long as you're happy, you'll be fine.
Mm, I love it. Now,
Yeah,
would you
man.
say that once you actually made that jump, was there an obstacle you initially had after having made that transition? Or was it just you knew what you wanted, you had it down, and you were happy once you actually made it?
No, it was obviously a big jump. It was different. I was leaving engineering where a lot of my friends from high school, we were all together at the same university. So I always had like
Mm,
this was somewhere I was joining with. I knew nobody, nothing. New
yeah.
school, obviously, didn't know anyone. So it was very, very different. It was tough, but I mean, this is like 15 years ago now. So like I have to
Hmm.
really think
Wow.
back on it. I'm like old, but it was different for sure. But I obviously I don't regret it. I made friends.
That's awesome.
Some people that I'm still in touch with today, that I was with in that program, and some people that are also in the industry. So I'm very happy. Everything has obstacles, but I stuck through it.
I love it. I'm going through something similar with one of the guys I mentor. He's 20 years old and he picked a program and he realized this is not what I want to do. And he came to me saying, I need some advice. I don't know what I want to do. And it's just nice to hear you reaffirm the exact same thing I told him is trust your gut. If you feel
Yeah,
like it's what
man.
you want to do, go with it. And if you're not sure, make the jump. You can always come back and make the change, but
Exactly.
don't move on with regret it. So that's
Yeah,
the biggest thing. And I love that you said exactly what I told him. So that's awesome.
that's what it is, right?
Yeah. Now, as a BlackJacks commentator, or I should say sideline reporter, sorry,
Yeah,
you get a different perspective as playing basketball, teaching basketball, or coaching it. You get the sideline, but then you never think of, okay, someone who has to talk throughout the game and do either you do play-by-play commentary sometimes, but your main role with the BlackJacks is doing sideline reporting. So you have to get questions ready. You got
yeah.
to think, okay, who's the top performer? And I got to talk to this player. What do I ask them in that moment? So for you, how do you prepare for a game? And then during the game itself, what are kind of things you're looking out for that could be some insight for someone like me who never thought of it from that perspective?
Good question. Preparation starts like a couple days before for me or throughout
Mm,
the season, depending if I'm in training camp ahead of the first game of the year or if I'm in the middle of the season or the end of the season, right? So
yeah.
there's different preparation for me because towards the end of the season, you pretty much have all the stats, right? What this team is, what their record is, what you're going to expect on a nightly basis. First game of the season, you've only seen them through training camp and practice, right? Maybe an exhibition or two. So there's still a lot of question marks. Who's going to make the team? Because this is a league where there's a lot of player change. Who's going to make the team? What kind of rotations are they going to be? What kind of lineups? You kind of know a couple of guys if they're returning. Okay, you know what you're going to get of this guy. This guy is actually the star player, et cetera, et cetera. Middle of the season, kind of like depending how far into the season, okay, they're finding their stride. You know also kind of like what to expect. You might be expecting a little more from certain players on any given night. But that's what it is for in terms of preparation for me. So it depends where it is. I also talk to
staying up to date with everything around the team, especially.
Yeah, going to practices, talking to different guys, different approach with every single player, right? Kind of you have your star players or your guys that you know are going to go and get like 20, 25 points a night. But then you have your guys that do things that are not going to show up in the stat sheet. So you kind of take that angle with those players. They're kind of like the grit, the glue, the heart and soul of the team, you can say. So you kind of, for my preparation before the game, maybe a day or two before, or I'd shoot around that morning, I kind of ask them those kind of questions so that throughout the broadcast, I have, if they do something that I know they're capable of, then I have a point and be like, hey, I spoke with him like yesterday or this morning at shoot around, and this is something that this player is known for. And he spoke about like, this is my role. This is what I've cemented myself to be on this team, right? And that's how it is. So every player is kind of different in how you approach it. And I think preparation is very important. I also talk to different sideline reporters across the league, depending on what team the BlackJacks are playing. For questions, it really depends on the game and what's happening in the game. If it's a defensive battle, then I'll focus like my questions on defense. If it's like the second game in 3 nights, or if they have a game a day from now, at the end of the game, I'll ask them, okay, now you have to get over this one, whether it's a win or a loss. How do you prepare for this next team? If someone has a record night, then we'll focus on like, what were you feeling out there? Like, was the net just huge? Everything you were throwing up was going in? Because I've been part of those where someone, scores a high 30-point game, for example. So it just depends. And sometimes I'm like, I think I've asked everything. So I maybe have one question, and then when they throw to me, it just comes to me, I guess, maybe with my experience. Or maybe I'll throw something a little light at the beginning just to get a feel for what the player's going to say, and then jump off his answer and maybe ask him a follow-up.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And you and I have a lot of ties to the Ottawa BlackJacks. So my question to you is, it's hard to tell because like you mentioned, a lot of roster turnover, things can change over year. What would you say is the missing key factor for the Ottawa BlackJacks to win a CEBL championship?
Oh, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Obviously, having your best players available when playoff time comes, I think.
Absolutely.
I think if they had their team that they finished the season with, they missed a lot of guys going into that playoff game against Scarborough this past summer. But if they had their guys, they probably could have gone far. And for the first time, I kind of want to say in the team's history, because I've been there since the beginning, they had a guard who could create for himself and create for others. Now, they've had wing players that could do that. But this time they've had like a really guard who could attack, who could score at all 3 levels, could shoot the 3. Wasn't the highest 3-point percentage, but he was a threat, especially if he had it going.
Volume scored.
So he can get to the free throw line. He can score in the paint. He really played at his own pace, especially fast break or in a half court. If you would get into the paint, like watching him, it kind of like you could see the game slow down for him because there would be so many defenders, but he knew how to step around and use that footwork that he had to get right to the rim or set up guys. And that was like really the first time I think in the franchise's history where they had a player that was so dynamic like that. And I feel like if they had their full team, they could have really made a push for it.
They definitely had the complementary pieces around them as well.
They had they had a couple of good big men. They had some wing players. They had some guys that got after it on defense. They had some shooting. So they were a really complete team. They just weren't complete when they needed them, right? Like they didn't have the roster when it mattered most, unfortunately.
No question. Now, you have a not-for-profit clothing brand,
Yeah.
and it's spelt out, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Sabr.Style. If
Yeah.
you can help me just understand, what does that stand for, or is that something it means? Like, if you could tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's pronounced Sabr.Style. Style, obviously,
Okay.
because it's a clothing. Sabr means patience in
Yep.
Arabic. So
Okay.
just about me and my brother co-founded it, and it was just our way to give back. But you know, when you go
Mm.
around and let's say you're raising money for a charity, you just go and ask
Sure.
people, "Hey, can you
Yep.
make a donation? We have this cause. We're helping people, whatever it is, whether it's cancer or whether it's heart disease, anything that
Mm-hmm.
you're supporting." But we wanted it to be like, hey, we have a clothing line, so all your money goes to the cause, but you'll
Yes.
get like a shirt or a hoodie. So you could just visit
Yeah.
our
That's
website
awesome.
and you can buy a piece of clothing, and your money goes to help. So we help the less fortunate in the Middle East,
Mm.
and we build water wells in Africa. We've built 2 water wells so
That's
far.
awesome.
Yeah, one
Wow.
in Niger and one in Mali. So 2 there, and then we've helped an orphanage and a widow center in Iraq. And we've
Wow.
also helped the less fortunate in Lebanon, where I'm from, where we like
Mm-hmm.
slaughtered like a sheep or a cow and then hand out the meat to the less
Yep.
fortunate. We've also provided help to the less fortunate in Yemen. So we try, man. We're trying to do that. But you can
Yeah.
go to the website. You can buy a piece of, a shirt, a hoodie,
Mm-hmm.
and the money will be used to
One
from one of
hundred
those.
percent.
Yeah,
One
100%.
hundred percent of the money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. We don't take
That's
any.
awesome.
We don't take a penny. Nothing.
That's amazing.
We pay to get the shirts made, right? So everything
Yeah.
that you pay for actually goes to either building a water well or helping the less fortunate
That's beautiful.
in the Middle East. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what's been one of the most meaningful moments in doing so, but I think you spoke it to itself, and everything you've impacted and done
Yeah.
through your initiative. I think that is so fulfilling in itself, knowing you're really changing lives through selling clothes, which is
He,
insane to think about because you're really changing lives.
seeing that, like we have obviously have
Yeah.
family back home in Lebanon, so when I send them,
Yes.
like when they get the money or we tell them what to do with it, and she'll send
Yeah.
us like pictures and going around and videos of delivering the food to the people. I've been to
Wow.
Iraq twice, where I've been able to visit the orphanage and
Mm-hmm.
the widow center,
Mm-hmm.
where I've sat down with the man that runs it and given
Wow.
him the money, and he then will send me obviously pictures and videos of people receiving
I love it.
like boxes, of like essentials, right? Whether it's things for the widows, like feminine
Mm-hmm.
products, or like food, like canned food and different things that could be useful for them that unfortunately we maybe take for granted in our everyday life,
Mm.
that they are relying on other people's donations so that they can
Yeah.
get like the bare minimum. So it's nice to see that, to go there in these countries that are third world countries, and see that you're making a change and having an impact on people's lives.
No, absolutely. And for anybody who's interested in buying any gear, I'll leave that in the description down below. So if you want to check that out, more than
Appreciate it.
welcome to check it out. Of course, man. Now for you, you're actually one of the voices behind the 3 in the Key podcast.
Yeah.
What's the story behind the podcast, and how has it shaped your career and perspective on basketball as a whole?
So when I got back from All-Star Weekend in 2016
Mm-hmm.
from Toronto, and we got a couple of guys approached me, 2 guys I used to work with, like at Bell Media, and he said, "Hey, we should start a podcast, talk about basketball." It was kind of just like an idea, right? We didn't
Sure.
know what it was going to be or what it was going to end up being, right? And I said, okay, I'm cool with that. Like, we can just talk basketball amongst ourselves and upload it, have our friends and family listen to it. We don't know where
Mm.
it's gonna go. So
Yeah.
that's how it kind of started. And then eventually we had added a 4th person, and things changed over the years. Now we're just 2 guys, me and my co-host Fuad, who was actually the 4th member to join. And at one point we actually got on TSN, like we were on there weekly. It wasn't just a
Wow.
podcast; it became like a
Yeah.
radio show on TSN 1200. And then unfortunately, because of COVID, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stopped. Couldn't go into studio and things like that.
Yeah.
But we still record weekly, and man, it's given me just a huge opportunity, like to interview different people that I've been fortunate enough to interview, like former NBA players, current guys that play in the league.
Can you name a few guys just so people can come and check out? They know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, like I've interviewed Rashad McCants, before, who obviously now is like on a
Yeah,
podcast
Gil's
with
Arena.
Gilbert. Yeah,
Yeah.
but he was in the NBA for a little bit. A couple of guys who were on like two ways now, like Jackson Rowe, who played in Ottawa in the CBL.
Yeah.
He plays for the Warriors. Xavier Moon, who played on the Clippers. He was obviously the MVP award is named after him in the CBL.
The
So
GOAT
that
in CBL.
yeah, so he's been
Yeah.
on my show. I've interviewed obviously Ernie Johnson from Inside the NBA, people who watch Inside the NBA, different like play-by-play guys and journalists and coaches, play-by-play announcers as well. I've interviewed Chuck Skortsky. If people in Canada know him as like the voice, like bring out the salami and cheese. Like you were probably too young for that, Will, but he
I've seen the clips.
yeah, he's done play-by-play before for
Yeah.
the Raptors, but now he's radio play-by-play for the Bulls. So just a bunch of guys. Like we're approaching 400 episodes, so we've been doing it for a while now. Yeah, and very
What's been
blessed.
something for you that's been challenging in that sense? Because this is episode 8 for me, and I mean, I'll put in the intro, but to be transparent with you, this is my series finale. So this is season 2 is my final season, just because
Okay.
I recognize it's not my passion. So I'm honest with myself about it, that I have enjoyed this, but I'm ready for other things to do, right?
Yeah.
But for you, 400 episodes in, man, like what's been something that's been challenging for you, and maybe some advice you'd give to someone that's getting into the podcast world and wanting to start their own?
Challenging is probably like kind of being different than what you already hear or see online, kind of your own
Because
twist.
there's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot now. There's a lot of podcasts. I really love doing interviews as well. So I like to have different guests, authors, like I mentioned, coaches, players. Everyone is different, right? When you have a player, you approach it differently. When you have a coach, it's author, play-by-play, reporter. Everyone. I think that's the beauty of it. I can approach every interview differently. I've had you on the podcast. That was a different thing, like talking about like mental health and coaching and training. I've had an agent on, so different avenues. I really like doing interviews, but I also like having just me and my co-host and banter and talk about the first week in the NBA, but kind of taking a different approach than what you hear. So it's kind of like just our thoughts. You're sitting, if you're doing a 2-man thing or 3 or whatever, you think of it, if you're sitting like in a restaurant or on a friend's
And having a
basement,
conversation.
a friend's house, watching a game and just talking about hoops. And most of the time, guys have different opinions. It's very rare that you probably agree. You could agree to some point, but at one point, everyone's going to have their own little opinion. So it's good to have that back and forth. I think it just being different. Now, it's not easy, but with time, and if it's something you really want to do, you'll be able to find your avenue.
I love it. That's awesome. Now, for you, you wear a lot of hats, right? So you're, co-founder of the podcast. You do the sideline commentary for the BlackJacks.
Yeah.
Co-founder of a not-for-profit. You wear so many hats, right? And it's tough to balance all these things and still remain who you are as a person, right? And I talked about it with the coach I had on, Mike Dunn, and that opened my eyes to asking him the question of being like, how do you balance life and who you are as a person, your identity, and your coach? And he tells me, man, and this is one of the world-renowned top shooting coaches. He says, I struggle with it. And I was like, wow. And that's me feeling that way. I've felt that way over the years. It's been hard for me to figure that out and distinctively make that difference. For you, you are more than just a coach. You're doing 3 different things, right? Not just 2. So for you, how do you remain Elias El Zein as a person? And then you're also got these different avenues of things you got going on and trying to, balance everything.
I've never been asked that question. Honestly, I've never even thought of it. I've just all these hats. I think is who makes me who I am.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
I
awesome.
don't know if I take off the hat to be me.
Yeah.
I think the hat is part of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
So I think it's who I am. Like the hat stays on. I don't remove the hat, and I'm not like a broadcaster anymore. I don't remove the hat. I'm not like running my non-for-profit. I think the hats stay on. I think maybe I just relax a little bit at the end of the night, where I'm just relaxing and watching the game on TV, for example, or with friends hanging out. Go play basketball a couple times a week. I think that's really my disconnect, where I'm not doing anything, where I'm just focused on trying to get a few buckets and have some fun.
Killing it.
Yeah, try, man. But honestly, I think the hats are part of me. I think that's who makes me who I am, right? I don't think I've never thought of it like that, where I put the hat and I'm a broadcaster now. I think it's different maybe when I do the blackjacks and I go to the arena because it's more like on camera and I'm wearing a suit and it's a little
Yes.
more,
Yeah.
I have
Formal.
to formal. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, when I don't,
Hmm.
when I'm not wearing a suit, I still look at myself as a professional, and I'm still at the end of the day representing myself, my company, or my
Yeah.
podcast, or in this, at the end of the day, I'm affiliated with the Blackjacks, right? So you don't want to ever be doing something negative out there
Yeah.
in
No,
society.
absolutely.
So yeah, great question, bro.
Thank
But
you. I
yeah, I think
appreciate that.
I think the hats are part of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you say for you doing the sideline commentary for the Blackjacks as
Mm.
a broadcaster, even doing the play-by-play commentary, what advice would you give to someone that wants to get into that field, but is kind of having a hard time, not necessarily getting the opportunity, but just getting the confidence to get into that field and say, you know what, I'm going to go to Algonquin and I'm going to study this. I'm going to go to school and I'm going to look into starting this avenue and starting that career for myself. What advice would you give to them for someone that maybe is struggling with that confidence, and you can give them some tips on how you build your own?
Practice, honestly. If you're
Mm,
struggling with confidence, before you get an opportunity, or even if you have one to call like a high school game or youth sports, before you get to the
hmm.
professional level, put on a game your screen on TV at home and mute it and call the game.
Yeah.
I've done that, so
And just by yourself muting the
yeah.
TV, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. That's so cool.
I think you have to practice, because what other way you're gonna practice? Sometimes you can have some fun with some friends out if they're doing something, and
Yeah.
you broadcast it, and you just within friends. But I think
Yeah.
practice really makes perfect. I think the
Mm,
more you practice something, the more you're out there, the more you're studying. Even me, I listen to games and I'm like, oh, he said this or he said that. This broadcaster approached it this way, or he asked his co-host or the color commentary person or the silent reporter this kind of question. Like if
yeah.
I'm doing that role, for example, the play-by-play, I'll look and listen to that. If I'm doing sideline, then I'll really pay attention to the sideline reporters and
Hmm.
what they do. What are they breaking during the game? What kind of information are they providing? What kind of questions are they providing?
Yeah.
Or asking. Sorry. So I
Yeah.
think you have to practice no matter what. And
For
obviously,
sure.
this is a hard. Not many jobs like this exist, right? So you
Hmm.
have to practice and really trust your craft, and try to be the best at it. That's the only way.
Yeah. Yeah. And who would you say is the GOAT for you in the sideline commentator role?
Well, sideline, I don't know. Sideline, there's a lot of good sideline
Yeah.
reporters, but I don't know if one like jumps to. No, I like
Okay.
Lisa Salters actually. She's been doing it for a
Okay.
very long time. She does football and she does basketball. I think
Yeah.
she's really good. Um, Play by play, I can probably give you a few more. Really like Mike Breen. I like Kevin Harlan.
That's
I think
double bang, right? Bang,
Mike Breen
bang.
is
Yeah, yeah,
bang,
yeah.
yeah.
From Miami. Yep,
He's
yep.
he's he's legendary. Obviously, Chuck
Yeah.
Swirsky is one of the first guys I've ever heard doing the Raptors back
Hmm.
in the day. And like that always, he had like these phrases like "onions, baby," like random, something so
Yeah.
random, but it was him. That's what makes it.
What is your thing? Do you hear the
Uh,
double bang? You hear onions, baby,
yeah, I don't
onions. What's
know.
Elias's?
I
Do you have
don't
to figure
know if
that out still?
yeah, I don't know if I really have
Okay.
one. I do different things. It depends what's
Yeah.
going on. I would say if there's a shot that goes in and out, I do say in and out like a fast food restaurant.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so there's that, but I don't have something like a bang or
Okay. We gotta come with
uh,
that next year. We'll figure
yeah.
something out.
I'll see if I can come up with something that's
Yeah.
like signature to me. I have different things if things happen in the game. Like if a big steal or a big dunk or a poster or something, I do have something like in my back pocket ready if something
Mm,
like that were to occur during the broadcast.
yeah.
But yeah, I think sideline Lisa Salters definitely comes to mind. She's solid. She's been doing it for a long time,
Yeah.
and she's like
That's
very
awesome.
professional. I really like what she brings
Hmm.
to the game. She does football and she does basketball.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Usually I end the podcast with closers and quick hitters and things like that, right? I'm
Hmm.
changing up for you. So for
Okay.
you, I want to start off with talking a bit about Elias's character, right? Elias, I want to tell everybody the type of man that you are. And I believe, give me 1 second. Let me just make sure I pull up my facts right. Bear with me
Okay.
one moment.
Okay. Let's see if you have your facts
I gotta make
correct.
sure I got it right. So you are a Lakers fan, right?
Correct.
And you were a Lakers fan when the starting lineup consisted of Jordan Clarkson, Wayne Ellington, Ryan Kelly, Tariq Black, and Robert Sacre.
Even
So
before
I just
that.
want to tell everybody,
Yeah.
yeah, I know even before that, but I'm saying through this,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
that type of loyal guy where you stick to
Yeah,
your
yeah.
team, right?
I would stay
I'm
up
a
and watch
Raptors
the game.
fan for sure. And I kudos to you, bro, because I'm a Raptors fan and I grew up with DeRozan, Lowry on the rise. That's when I really got into basketball a lot more hardcore. So I was very blessed through the 2010s and the regular season, especially to see winning
Yeah, a lot
basketball,
of
a
winning
winning culture
basketball.
being built. I got lucky. Now, for you, it was kind of opposite. You got into basketball and it was Kobe dominating and Kobe
Hmm.
taking over, winning back-to-back championships, making it to the finals 3 years in a row. Then obviously it was kind of like the downward spiral. So what advice would you give to someone who's new to the rebuilding, segue of playing in the lottery and trying to get high draft
Right.
picks?
So when I started watching, yeah, Kobe, early 2000s, I saw the
Yeah.
three-peat with Shaq. And then there was Shaq getting traded, but Kobe was still dominant.
Mm,
And then obviously when they got Powell, they went to three finals again, winning some
yep.
championships. And then those dark years came
Very dark.
after that. But once they start winning again, it feels so much better. Like
Mm.
it's so
There's a light
good.
at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
rewarding, and that's what
Okay.
really makes us fans is
Mm.
going through these times when
No, absolutely.
players or teams struggle and you're in the
Yeah.
lottery or you're at the bottom of the conference and you have a lineup like that and you're like, you know what, we're winning tonight. And
Hmm.
that's what I would tell myself. And there were games where they would get close and then they would lose. I'm like, why did I stay up for this?
And they lose in the worst way too, where they blew a 10-point lead in a minute
Yeah,
or
something,
something
and they
crazy
shouldn't
like
even
that.
have
Yeah,
had the lead, but you're like, oh my
yeah,
God, and the whole
yeah,
crowd is going crazy and things
yeah.
like that. But it just makes it sweeter, honestly, when you go through
Okay,
those years and
I love it. I appreciate that. That's
you're
good
a
advice.
lottery team, and then if you draft a really good young player, for example, then
Yeah,
see him grow and then him win Rookie of the Year, for example, with you, like Scotty Barnes, and becoming an All Star, and maybe now taking the
yeah,
next step and getting to the second round of the playoffs. It just makes it sweeter. Yeah, it makes it
yeah,
better. So
yeah.
stick
Unless
through
you're a
it.
Hornets fan, that's where it's it
Hey,
gets rough over there.
listen, they're off to a good start this season.
That's true. You're not wrong. Moving on, I want to talk about your NBA predictions. So I want to go over the major awards, right? So I want to go over MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Let's start with those two. Who is your MVP so far this year? We're 1 week into the NBA season, by the way,
Yeah,
for everybody that's watching this.
3 games in about. I mean, it's hard not to say Wemby.
Okay, and Defensive Player of the Year, same thing.
It's hard not to say Wemby.
That
For
was gonna be my
sure,
picks as well. Yeah.
defensive player of the year for sure. But 3 games in, I think
If he
he's
stays healthy, I
definitely
completely agree.
in the
Absolutely.
conversation. And if San Antonio ends up winning like 50 games, 55 games, for example, and
Yeah.
being like a top seed in the Western Conference, then
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be very hard not to give him both awards, right? I think
Give me a
going to
dark
the
horse. Who's your dark horse for the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year?
I think a dark horse for MVP is probably Anthony Edwards. I know he's out for two
Okay.
weeks now, but this is a
Hmm.
team, the T Wolves, that's gone back to back West Finals.
Yep.
If they can win a little more games and be, I think in the West it's hard. There's a lot of really good teams, but you have to definitely be at least a top four seed, at least,
Yeah.
in my opinion,
Mm.
to definitely receive a bunch of MVP votes. But there's too many good players, I think, that are going to have better records than the T
Mm.
Wolves. And now the Spurs, maybe, but I think OKC, I think Shea has a really good shot at repeating. I think Jokic
Yeah.
can win an MVP again. I think
Yeah.
Giannis, if Milwaukee does really well and he puts up crazy numbers, I think he'll be in the conversation. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
There's a lot of guys with Defensive Player of the Year. Is definitely Wemby's to lose.
Yeah. Agreed. 100% agree. And then for me, I would say my obvious pick would be Wemby right now.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if he stays healthy, he'll probably be the same way. We've just never seen an athlete like this ever
No.
to be successful the way that he is. I think he's my favorite for both. I think my dark horse would be Jokic for MVP. I think everything they've added as far as their pieces and their depth they now have this year, I think they're major contenders. And I think he's also a good pick for MVP. And then Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with my guy, Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
I'm
I
going to go
don't
with my
think
guy,
he's
Rudy
gonna get.
Gobert.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
it's a
so
dark
either, but you
horse.
never know.
I think
If
dark
not him,
horse
then it's
for
Giannis.
Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not gonna go a big man. Evan Mobley won it last year, right? So I'm not
Yeah,
gonna go big. I'll go Dyson Daniels, who's probably gonna lead the league
that's a
in
good pick.
steals
Yeah,
again.
Atlanta, though, I don't know. I'm a Raptors fan. I just saw the first game of the season. They got whooped by like a good
Yeah,
30 points by us. So
they'll be
we'll
better. They
see.
should be better.
Should be.
They have a good
Yeah.
team. They made some good moves to complement Trey Young, just off to a slow start, I think. But
No, absolutely.
I don't think Jokic is a dark horse for MVP, by the way.
I wouldn't say that. No, I try to pick someone different than the obvious with Wemby, right? That was kind
Right,
of like
right.
my approach to it, but fair. So right now, as of today, the
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls are 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
The Philadelphia 76ers are 3-0. If it was your guess, who sustains that level of success for longer throughout the season?
I
Or do
think
they both fizzle out and come down to reality?
I think they'll come down to reality, but I think Philly obviously
Okay,
has a better chance of having a better record for sure. They're
fair.
just way more
Completely agree.
talented. I think VJ Edgecombe is legit. I always knew
Yeah,
like him coming out and then third pick, Philly
rookie of the
getting that.
year.
Back to your point of the lottery being rigged, like Philly
Yep.
getting the third overall pick. They haven't had Paul George yet. I think Maxi's a really good player. McCain's going to come back. Embiid's played, but he's playing on a minutes restriction. So if they can build
Yes.
him up, I think Philly obviously is a team that can win a lot of games when healthy. And Chicago, sure, they're starting off really, I mean, good. I guess you could say 3-0
Yeah.
is really good for them, but they'll definitely fizzle out at some point.
Okay. And then for this one, we'll revisit this at the end of the year. I'll talk to you about it. But
Mm-hmm.
Zion Williamson plays over or under 65 games this year, and the New Orleans Pelicans make the playoffs. Not the play-in, the playoffs.
So
Yes or no?
so Pelicans
Over
being
under 65 games,
yeah,
Zion,
yeah.
and then they're a top 8 seed once the playoffs start in late
Okay,
April
so that means
2026.
so that means they are a playing team, but win the play-in.
Correct.
Definitely not. They're not making the playoffs. They're not
Okay,
making
and
the
then
playoffs.
Zion.
Under as well. Maybe he'll play
Man,
60, but I don't think
that's
he'll play 65.
okay. I'm
If
gonna
he
go the
does,
opposite. I'm gonna say
I mean,
over. I'm confident in him wanting that second contract now after he got paid, and I think also they'll make the playoffs because they traded their first round pick this year,
yeah,
so they need to perform.
they
So
do. But
we'll see.
I think, I mean, look at just going by history, man. Like,
Yeah, I know that's fair. I don't blame you. That's fair.
for
That's a safe
sure, I
pick.
don't think they're gonna make the postseason. I think the West is
Yeah.
just too stacked. Zion, I think that's a possibility for sure. I don't think that would be like a bad over for his 65. He's
No,
probably
that's
gonna
fair.
get to 63 or something. But we'll revisit
Yeah.
it. That's a good one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this one's a more of a deeper topic, but I just want to kind of touch on the topic, and we'll talk a little bit about it before we move on. But a lot of things have been going on, some major things involving the FBI with
Yeah.
the NBA and gambling. Now, you know it. I work a lot with youth, so I see it on the everyday of the impacts it has on the next generation and just the viewers of the game of basketball and how it's impacted them over the last like 5, 6 to 7 years since it's become a lot more prevalent in the NBA with sports gambling in general, right? It's thrown in our faces. So for you, what's your take on someone who loves the game of basketball? You're a purist. You've been watching it for years and years on what the game has turned into now with how much they push gambling onto listeners and viewers of the game.
Well, I don't gamble. I don't
Yeah.
do any of that. So I don't like it, obviously. But to each their own, right? People want to gamble, sure, go ahead. I just don't like when fans are like, "Hey, you didn't get me this point or whatever," and then they start coming after the players. Like, come
Yeah.
on, man. You know.
No, that's fair.
I think the investigation is, if these allegations are true, is a really big deal for the NBA. So we're gonna see how
Correct.
they're gonna react. We just recorded a podcast about that yesterday, so that episode's out, by the way, if you want to hear like
Yeah, absolutely.
full reaction. But it's crazy. I think the NBA, if these players, former players and coaches and whatnot, the guys that have been in in this investigation, the names that have been out there like Billups, Damon Jones, Terry Rozier, and if there's going to be any more, and if they're found guilty, I think the NBA is going to come down hard on them. I think they have no choice. I think they have to set an example, right? And then it tells
Jonte Porter
people,
is the most relevant example of the fact he got banned from basketball.
That's where it really first started, apparently, and he's banned from the NBA. He's probably going to be going to jail. But Chauncey Billups with this whole mafia thing, with reading like technology of these X-ray tables and stuff like that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of questions here, right? That I asked myself: was he being forced to do this? Like, did he owe them money for it? There's just a lot of questions you get, right? You
For
think
sure.
of mafia
That we don't have answered yet.
movies. Yeah, like was he being forced to do this by these people?
Yeah.
Right, and bring
sure.
us your celebrity friends, and you're in on there, and maybe maybe he owes them a debt or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating, and
Yeah.
then they said because you're bringing us people, your debt will go down and down and down or whatever?
Yeah.
Or is it greed by Chauncey and he's bringing people and he's getting
Mm.
a cut out of it? But man, you're a Hall of Famer. You've made millions of
Yeah.
dollars as a player, and now you're making millions as a coach. Like, we have to obviously wait and see what happens. But
Sure.
if
Because these
they
are all
are,
allegations so far.
yeah,
Nothing is confirmed yet,
allegations,
except for
innocent
Jonte
to,
Porter.
yeah, innocent till proven
Yeah.
guilty for sure. And hopefully this is
Yeah.
just maybe all a big misunderstanding or something.
Mm.
But if he is like guilty, then man, the NBA is gonna come down hard on them for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
no question. I think for me, the biggest thing that's relevant to me and how it's impacting viewers and people in general, especially the next generation, is I work a lot with young men and with my youth programs.
Hmm.
And one thing I remember really clearly is I was at my youth program, and a kid comes up to me, a young boy comes up to me and says, "Hey, if you had to bet who's gonna win tonight," and even just that subtle language of if you had to bet, and this is a 15-year-old boy saying that to me, and I'm like, when we were 15, we're like, "Oh, who you got winning tonight? Who's winning tonight's game?" Well, we're
Yeah,
changing the conversation of saying who you're gonna bet on. And it's so small, but it's put into these kids' subconscious of how they're speaking now to each other.
it's promoted like
The
crazy, right?
Yeah, and the saddest thing for me is I remember I was watching your favorite player, LeBron James, was
Hey, whoa,
winning.
whoa, whoa,
LeBron was getting the all-time scoring leader, obviously at 40,000 something points, or
yeah.
sorry, 30,000, 39,000 something points,
At
beating
that
Kareem.
time, yeah.
And the main prompt they had on the screen before the game was, how is LeBron James going to beat the record? Minus 400 on a free throw, minus
Oh
800 on
wow,
a
I
layup.
don't even remember
Like, and they
that.
had a whole prompt. I'll put it on
Yeah,
the screen because I think I have a photo of it. But it's like we can't even enjoy history of the game without having it be thrown on us to gamble on how he's going to beat the record. It's crazy, and
yeah. I
it's
don't.
truthfully it's sad for me.
Yeah, I don't like it and the way it's
Yeah,
promoted, and they always put a tag at the end like, "Hey, gamble responsibly."
yeah, and call this number if you need help. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
and people are losing a lot of money, obviously, depending on how much you're
yes,
betting and how much you're, if you're a casual bettor where you bet $5, or if you're
mm,
someone that's putting 500 or 1,000, 2,000 a night. I've never really been that gambling person. I don't think
yeah,
I'll ever, I'll never be.
yeah,
So I don't take part in that.
nope, totally fair. Advice you would give to a young listener that's listening right now? Could be anything in life, in business, in your own experiences. What would be some advice you'd like to give to a young boy or young person who's listening right now to this podcast?
I think we've mentioned it a few times on the podcast so far on this episode is trust your gut. If there's something you want
Mm,
to do, go for it. You know, don't let any kind of judgment or think, oh, what's this person gonna think of me? Or nah, man,
mm,
just go out and do it. That would be really my biggest advice: is follow your dreams, work hard, wake up every morning, ask yourself, did I take a step? Did I get closer to whatever my dream was? Or
yeah,
if I wanted to read 2 chapters of my book today, for example. Like, did I do
yeah,
that? Did I make enough time to read those 2 chapters? It's be something small like that.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be
Little wins.
something exactly little wins to build up to bigger W's. And another one that just, I wouldn't say random, but honestly, go out and travel the world. Go
Mm,
experience different places in the world, explore different cultures, meet different people. I think that will open up your eyes a lot to see different things, and you probably will start not taking things for granted,
hmm.
depending where you go in the world, and see how some people, maybe something that you care about so much or think is such a big deal for them, it's like it's not. And then it gives you just a
No,
different perspective on
yeah,
life. I
and
think that's
appreciation.
exactly perfectly
Yeah,
said, Will.
yeah.
Appreciation for sure. I think that's,
I love
I
it.
think
That's
those are
awesome,
two
man.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, with every podcast, I always close up with, obviously, as you noticed throughout the entire podcast, I'm asking you the questions. I'd like to give you the chance to ask me any questions, should you have any. Fire away.
Why do you don't want to do you said this is like the series
This is the
finale?
series finale,
you
correct?
you you don't you don't want to pursue it. It's not a passion of yours.
Yeah.
But is there something that told you like, hey, I don't like it, or
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
not
good
good at
question.
it, and I don't want to do it? Like
I wouldn't say
what was
that.
what was it for you that is like,
Yeah.
oh, I just don't, I don't have that passion for
Yeah.
interviewing
I'm a
people
big
or doing a podcast.
For sure. I'm a big believer in, if you're gonna do it right, right? And
Of
if your
course.
heart's in it, you're gonna execute, you're gonna do it at a high level. And I'm the type of person where I've always finished everything I've ever started, right? And the contract I made with myself was I'm gonna do 10 episodes when I start this podcast, and then I'll see what happens from there. And I did season 1, and that was 7 episodes. And then I worked on a couple different things, and I kind of realized, okay, this is what I enjoy. There's different avenues of networking and developing, everything I want to build with Willpower and just engaging with different people and business professionals. That's what it is that fulfills me, and make an impact on the youth, obviously, as well. And I think that the podcast is a really cool platform for me to not only get to interview people, but ask them really meaningful and heartfelt questions that the youth and the next generation can pull from. But I'm not going to do it if I'm not putting my heart into it. And I think that I really did for my first season. I'm going to do so for my second season because I committed myself to saying I'm going to do that. And who knows, maybe like I'll experience life a bit more. I'll pursue these different avenues and I can come back to it. But as of right now, I'm pretty convinced that it's one of those things where I'm telling myself, I don't really know if I want to do this long term. I want to start something, and I want to finish it, and I want to be proud of the fact that I put that much effort into it. And I know if I continue beyond second season, it just won't be that consistent, because you see it all the time. You see a YouTube channel or something in general where it's like, okay, they started it, but then you haven't seen them upload in 8 months or 9 months. I didn't want to be that person. I want to have a proper opening, consistent uploads throughout, a proper closing. That's what happened to him. That's what happened to the channel. And for me, this isn't beyond the internet forever. So all these tools and nuggets of information and these things I've been able to offer through this platform has been great. It's going to be there forever. But I know moving forward, I need some time for sure to just explore different opportunities and avenues that to me feel just more fulfilling.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with you that if you're going to do something, you have to put your all
Yeah.
into it 100% and pursue it. Is there anything else you have planned then if you're not going to be doing this?
I've got a couple cool things in the works in the sense of my youth programs and collaborating with different, companies and initiatives going on in Ottawa. So I want to stay within local and continue to make impact around the city with basketball and just inspiring the next generation through sharing my story, but also through the game that I love that meant so much to me, is just opening kids' minds up to understanding that basketball, like, not everybody makes it the professional level. Not everybody's even pursuing to play at that professional level. But what are so many key things that we can take away from the game that can give us the tools to be successful in life? And I think this podcast is just a spitting image of exactly that, because I wasn't someone that played high level basketball, but it's my entire identity of what got me through a lot of difficult things in my youth. And it became what this platform has become. It became Willpower Basketball. It became me starting my own training business, was all prevalent around the game of basketball, because I learned these values and tools through the game. So I would say that that's the biggest thing. Same for you, exactly.
Yeah, just
I would say that's the biggest thing.
Broadcasting route. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
it's pretty dope. And
Yeah,
we're
man.
always talking, and I wish you all the best. Last question I have for you: When's the next time
Absolutely.
we're gonna play basketball together?
Tell me when. Tell me when. That's it.
Anytime,
You know
man.
where I'm at. I'm always down. You know it, man.
Perfect. I love
Now,
it.
with that, I conclude season 2, episode 1 of the Willpower Podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening and remind everybody to please leave a like and comment down below. Should you want to keep in contact, or should you want to be in contact with Elias about his brand, his not-for-profit, I should say, and his charity, his 3 in the Key podcast, I have everything in the description down below. And be sure to check out the Ottawa BlackJacks, so you can see Elias doing sideline commentary with his suit on, killing it as always. Elias, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, being a good friend.